went off on somebody too. I seen a little footage on that. Not much. I didn't catch much of it. It's pretty quick, but
Yeah.
yeah, some young kid. She's me 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 me. They're they're all losing their cookies, man.
Oh yeah. Well, this is like Trump said. You're witnessing the evil people lose their minds in real time, folks. In real time. And now, reminder on all that. By the way, Woodman, Joe Biden, John Kerry, Mitt Romney, the Clintons, and who you just said, Nazi Pelosi, and George Soros, all have connections to the Ukraine. I mean, they all have connections to the. I was just reading an article this morning on that very, very thing, and I can pull it up right here. Reminder: Joe Biden, John Kerry, Mitt Romney, the Clintons, Nancy Pelosi, and the George Soros all have the connection to the Ukraine. See, their hand are all in the cookie jar.
Yep.
And they got caught because Trump came in and turned on the light. See?
Yeah.
See how he does that?
Yeah.
Ben Garrison is great at doing these little pictures week after week, day after day. And look, Trump's foot's tapping down a little bit there.
Right.
It's like the angry parent that catches the kid and then in the cookie jar. We all caught you. Kerry, Romney, Biden, Pelosi, Ukraine cookies.
Yeah.
All right, folks, I can't.
All their offspring had a job doing. They were all the offspring. You know.
Yeah.
They were the ones working there. Yeah, every one of them. My word. And then they're going to sit there and, like point the finger. You're a bad person.
You bad
treasonous
man.
Act.
Well, that's a quick projection. That's what that. They run the quick projections to get them out there. So what are the odds that Joe Biden, John Kerry, Mitt Romney, the Clintons, Speaker Pelosi, George Soros all have connections to the Ukraine? Joe Biden and his son Hunter. If you don't know what that Joe Biden's son Hunter was the board member of Burisma, the Ukrainian oil and gas firm. By the way, these people are all green. They pitch green. Green. You're to blame. While their kids are over there in these foreign countries making sure the foreign countries aren't going green because they're sitting on these oil and gas firms that they say are bad. Then you're living under a rock, all right? You're living under a rock. You're not on the planet. You're not paying attention. You're listening to the wrong channels. You're listening to the wrong information. If you're not knowing about this, if this is the same company Joe Biden bragged about removing a prosecutor who was looking into the Bidens and George Soros in the Ukraine. All right, Sarah A. Carter, a truth movement soldier. Love to have her on the show and talk a little bit. Just a little open convo, no agenda session. So you need to check this out, right? This is the video. We've all seen it. This is Joe Biden threatening, all right? This is a son of a bitch. He fired him. You got about 6 hours before we fly out of here. If you don't fire him, we've posted a 32 tweet thread that talks about the whole thing with Kerry here. All right, early 14, Kerry visited the Ukraine, offered $1 billion in aid. Shortly after, prosecutors took over the government, causing the president to flee to Russia, and shortly after, Russia invaded the Ukraine. Also in early 2014, Kerry's top campaign fundraiser, Devin Archer, which was in college with his son, Kerry's son, which is a Hines, and then also Biden's son. They all three, Devin Archer, Kerry's wife, late wife that passed, was a Hines for the Hines 57. Kerry married her. She already had a son, so it's not Kerry's son, it's Kerry's stepson. Is that proper?
Yep.
And so these three boys were in college together. Devin Archer, Mr. Hines, and Mr. Biden, which is Hunter. Biden visited the campaign, and Archer and Biden's son Hunter are named the board of Burisma Holdings, the Ukraine's largest gas producer and well-known corrupt You start asking Biden about that. Well, it was corrupt well before my son ever got in there. Well, there you go. Why would why is your son in a corrupt company? Next, the Russian advance into the Ukraine was sudden. If you remember, they showed up in tanks, and they're invading. And they begged and pleaded with the Obama administration, we need some weapons, we need some missiles. They sent them blankets and MREs.
Blankets. Yeah,
and MREs. Yeah, Meals ready to eat. Meals ready to eat. We were familiar with those. Me and Woodman being some veterans here. MREs. Yeah. I mean, I at least hope they weren't the spaghetti ones. All right? Yeah, I just hope they didn't get that spaghetti. So, you got next the Ukraine advance, and the Ukraine Burisma hired John Kerry's former chief of staff, David Latier, as a lobbyist. Britain had frozen $23 million of Burisma's funders' money, but later dropped these charges. Of course they did. Some suggest that Burisma is actually owned by banker Kolomoisky, who blew through $1.8 billion in 9 months. How do you even do that? In aid.
I don't know.
In a maze of offshore accounts. Okay, so he was pumping it out through a maze of some offshore account. Kolomoisky was placed in U.S.'s visa's ban list, but then was soon lifted. Archer in 2018 was found guilty in a scheme of defraud Native Americans, but his guilty plea was later overturned. The months before Biden's last trip to the Ukraine, all investigations of the Burisma were closed. On Biden's last day in office, Burisma and the Democratic Connected Atlantic Council signed cooperation agreements. In addition, a video surfaced of Kerry bragging about himself, Obama, and Biden, all wanting the Ukraine prosecutor gone, who was looking into Burisma.
Crazy.
Oh, so he was looking into it. That's not what Biden said. Biden said the reason he fired him is because he wasn't looking into it good enough. And his son was there, and he wanted his son looked into really good. Because that's what dads want.
Yeah. Hey, none of them people even had any knowledge of gas and energy anyway. Are you kidding me?
That's put it this way: the Biden acted like he didn't talk to his son at all and didn't know nothing. He said, it's like he came home on, his dad's vice president at the time, like, home at Christmas time. Hey, son, how's it going? How's the Navy? How's the Navy, son? He's like, I got booted out, Dad. I did cocaine. What? Cocaine? Oh, geez, son. Let me call the Ukraine. See if I can't get you in over there. And, right? I mean,
for a large raise.
Yeah. What were you making in the service? 50, 60 grand a year. Yeah, Dad. I'll get you 166K a month. Will that work? The only other theory is the dude was booted out of the Navy. This is all fact. Booted out of the Navy for the cocaine charges and came home and just really hit rock bottom. We know that there's crack pipes and hookers and strippers or whatever involved. So he was out of it. And old Joe just took his information. And this is a funneling. Because there are laws against, you can't get money directly from like the country of China or the Ukraine directly into your bank account. So they would go through the kids. The kids would get all the money gathered up, and then I don't know if the parents are pilfering, like, all right, this is for this person, this is for me, this is for the other 18 people involved, and then the kids like sitting there just like, well, what's left for me? 200, oh, 200K, cool. No, $200, you idiot. You ain't doing nothing. And then when they come to, kind of like maybe Hunter is, kind of got a little new wife. I think he was dating his brother's deceased wife or whatever, but he's starting a family. And
hey, they got to be multimillionaires somehow. They don't get paid that good. Come on now. They all when they hang up their hat, they are all multi-million-dollar people.
That's right.
Buying big extravagant houses, $4 or $5 million houses, and still have $12 million in the bank, and they only earned about probably $1.5 million the whole time they were in.
Yeah, no, nobody's supposed to be rich. There's old, great quotes based off old presidents saying that no man shall be rich while they're like working for the government. I mean, these rates, we know DC's pretty high cost of living. So when you look at somebody like, they're making $150 a year. I mean, that's not very much in the scheme of things. I mean, it is. I mean, it's still a good living. And of course, these politicians are making it's tax dollars. So they're real fruitless with it. Every year, these people have voted down for 30 years to take, minimum wage shouldn't rise. Shortly after, they all like, no raise for minimum wage. They're fine where they're at, $7. Then they vote on our own raise for the 400 of us. Aye. Everyone is for it. They'll get a little raise for themselves year after year. They never vote that down. Yeah. Better medical, better, money.
Oh, yeah.
But we get that. But still, 150K is not gonna, you'd have to save and not spend anything for just 10 years roughly to be a millionaire, and you gotta live, and then that money gets burned up. So how do they become when they come in? And that's what we've always looked at. Look at all these people before they entered government. They were broke. I mean, Bernie was living on welfare. They say he was off of welfare. He's never had a real job. He went from welfare straight into the political game. And, his wife's over here. I mean, if you look into Maxine Waters in the, I think it was late 80s, early 90s or something, like her husband, they were from California, I think, as well, district-wise, and he was out on some private bank that they opened up in, like, the town of L.A. or the county of L.A. or Oakland or something. And then she was on the board of, monies and whatnot, and for banks and loans. And she secured her own husband $1 million, which was like unheard of for some small, private, opened up bank. It was actually like illegal. But they shoved ethics. A bunch of people put in ethics rules violations on her. And then when it came down to it and she got to go, she screamed racism. It was all racism against her and her husband. And then everyone got real quiet. I mean, this was under like the Clinton era. So you look into that stuff, and it's the same. Nancy Pelosi rips up that paperwork. They talk about, I thought, okay, like I saw some stuff floating around about an article of the USC of the code of, and it's like, official this, official that. I'm thinking, all right, these are copies. But, they did say that they're historic. Trump signs them all. Like they're signed. They're official copies. They're kind of given out. People normally hold them. She rips hers up. Trump actually said it was illegal. I don't know the legality on it. Is it legal or not? I mean, I know, like we've talked about, I've had pins before from the military that you put in your pocket and you get home, like, and it says right on there, property of U.S. government. Even down to a little 30-cent pin. Well, it probably cost them $10. I don't know, folks, but they did put in ethics charges on Pelosi, all right? So Matt Gaetz out of Florida puts in ethics charges against her. He's like, I probably won't go nowhere, these ethics. But it's a point. It brings attention. It's, the way she conducted herself on TV, behind the president, knowing that they set it up like that. The president here, the vice president, and then third in line, which is Pelosi. And then to conduct yourself back there, prepping some paperwork the whole time, not paying attention to anything, just already knowing what you're going to do, premeditated, it's horrible. So the point is, ethics charges will endure. Will it lead to anything for her over ethics charges? I doubt it. But the point is, she wanted the attention. Now she's going to get it. She's threatening all the social media sites to take the video down if they see it. Like, she doesn't want it reshown 1 million times. It's bad. She regrets it now. But
why not? Like they do that to Trump.
As far as I'm concerned, she was ripping up the Constitution in front of all of us. That's what you can just put it that way. She, if that's what she could have got her hands on, it probably would have been the Constitution. I mean, why not?